So next up is the handguard assembly. This is the factory Ruger handguard assembly, a nice extruded piece of aluminum with a lot of machining done to it to lighten it up. Then there's a collar system that threads on to the barrel nut, and then this collar system is then bolted using these screws or screwed onto the handguard. Problem I've got with this is this collar, one of the collar parts here is steel, the other one is aluminum, but it's pretty weighty. Also the handguard could be lighter, doesn't need to be this long. This is a sling attachment. This is the one that comes with it. I am going to be either using this or using another one, and then these are the screws. But there is some room to save here. So we're going to remake the whole system. We're not going to adapt any of this. And the way we're going to do it is we are going to use this lovely piece of carbon fiber tubing I have. Not cheap to get, but crazy light. And then I'll be making a collar for it out of this piece of aluminum, 6061, to adapt the handguard I make onto the barrel nut. Now check this out. This is pretty cool, is that if I weigh that stock handguard, move this forward a bit, if I weigh that stock handguard, and by the way, the whole weight of the factory handguard is 0.938 pounds, so we got a lot of room to move, in my opinion. Back to the stock handguard, it is 9.3 ounces, aluminum, machined out. If you take the stock piece of carbon fiber I have, which is almost twice the length of the aluminum one and not machined out, it is 7.5 ounces versus 9 point whatever it was for this guy. This is lighter. It's going to be almost cut in half and machined out, so huge savings with the carbon fiber. All right, let me show you exactly though what we're going to make by showing it on my computer. The handguard we're going to make for our Ruger Precision Rifle 308 lightweight is going to look something like this. As I just mentioned on the bench there, we're going to start from scratch. We're going to use all new materials. So there will be a carbon fiber handguard, and I will just be doing some basic, probably 1/4 inch slots in a radial pattern like that. It'll also be shorter. I think it's going to be about 10.5 inches long. The stock one I believe is 14. I don't need it that long. The way this is going to adapt to the barrel nut is this assembly right there will allow the whole handguard to thread onto the barrel nut. This will be a nice tight slit fit of the carbon fiber tube, probably with some bonding. I'll use some epoxy, and then I will also put some pins in there. It should be pretty effective, but this will be machined out of aluminum. There are some inside threads, so a little tricky there, and I do need to machine some flats, wrench flats, so we can torque it down onto the barrel nut. All right, I say we go into the shop and let's start making it. So we need to cut the raw carbon fiber tube to length. I am going with a 10.5 inch long handguard. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it raw on my bandsaw. When you do that, wrap it in tape. When you wrap it in tape, it keeps it from splintering and giving you that rough finish that sometimes you can get with carbon fiber. Now that cut we're going to make on the bandsaw will not be very flush or true to the tube, so I'll show you what we're going to do next to make it that. And don't assume the end, the factory end, is also flush and true to the tube. So anyways, let's go ahead and cut this. Now when I drop this, I'm going to do it by hand. I'm going to hold this up. I'm not going to let the auto feed or the weight of the bandsaw drop down. I'm going to use my hand because I want to feel how much force we're putting on here. This is a fine tooth blade, I think a 14 teeth per inch. Nice and slow. Nothing fast about cutting carbon fiber. it down on the exit. That's where you really can get some blowout. I'm slowing it down. All right, volley. There it is, 10.5 inches. Oh man, is it light. So here it is off the bandsaw, and as you can see, there's, you can see where the threads are trying to come out, but that tape did a good job of holding it in there. However, as I mentioned, the bandsaw is not very good at making a flush cut. If I take my square here and put it on there, you can see it moving. There is a pretty distinct slope to this cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it over to the mill and flush it up. The reason I want that nice and flush is, one, it should be, we're machinists. Two, aesthetically it'll look good. And three, when that sits on the barrel nut, we want it to be centered. And we'll get to that when we get we'll talk a little bit more about that when we put the barrel nut on. But we want these ends flush. Off to the mill. All right, we're going to use this giant 1-inch end mill to plane off this end and make it nice and flush. One thing you can do is leave the tape on there. There's no reason to take it off, and that'll help with keeping the threads blowing out. However, there's one thing, a little extra step I like to do when I do this with carbon fiber tubes. I make this plug. What this plug does is it keeps the carbon fiber from basically ovalizing. If I just put the carbon fiber in here and crank down the vise, I don't know if you can see that, but the carbon fiber is just bowing. It's turning into an egg. This will give you not a flush cut. It'll give you something else, something that is not. So what I like to do is make a plug, and actually the good news is the ID of this tube is exactly 1.75 inches. So I had a piece of 1.75 aluminum bar that I cut off, cleaned up. If it was something else, another weird dimension, this idea, I just go over to the lathe and make a plug. But anyways, you put the plug in there, put it in about 1/4 of an inch like that, then lay that into the vise. Don't clamp on the tape because that'll give you an uneven angle. It'll tilt the tube. Put it in there, hold it down, clamp it down, not a lot of force. There we go. I can't move the plug, so we got tension, and that did not bow. All right, we're ready to go. Let's cut it. What I like to do is come in and touch off. So there I am touching it. I'm going to zero out my X. I know you can't see that. But now I'm going to roll in. I'm going to go in about 5 thou, and I'm going to make an initial pass. And you can hear it. Now, there's one thing I want to comment on while we're doing this. We are making carbon fiber dust. You can see it there. You do not want to breathe that. We are doing a very light cut. It's barely going airborne. If I were to be doing anything heavier, I would probably wear a mask or set up a vacuum. But in this case, it's pretty lightweight. All right, let's do another 5 thou. Nice and slow. That is looking like, if I'm looking at it, looks like I've got all the surface. I've got it. So let's take it out of this. Let's get that plug out. Well, we can go. There we go. And let's grab our square. Oh yeah, no movement. No movement, nice and flush. No, you're probably not seeing that. That is one flush cut. I already did the other end, so this guy is ready to go.